Like it's crazy. Like I can like see it in my face. I just feel like there's just bleh. Talking to. Actually, let me remember to look at my camera because I'm talking to
Here,
you because you're
no,
a little dot with blue
do
rings
this.
around it.
Go to your own image up top and choose pin image,
Yeah, but
and
then
then it.
I'm big. I want to
Yeah,
like.
no, but then look at little me, and that's who you talk to the whole time. I'm talking to little Keith. Is that
Oh,
weird?
hello, Aaron. You're so cute. Look at you. You're that
Oh, we're totally not adding that in.
big.
Oh,
You're
weird.
so small though.
I know. I don't mind it though.
The bugs. So I was talking to my friend Harry today,
Hmm.
and he's pretty new to crypto. Like 1 month in, I kind of stepped him through how to, do a tiny little $25 purchase on Coinbase just to get him started.
Uh-huh.
And he's looking at the market and isn't, like anybody new to the space is having a hard time figuring out like what is all this stuff and not seeing the difference between the different coins, the different projects, and even amongst the big two, between Bitcoin and Ethereum,
Hmm.
why is one down? Why is one up? Is it just random? Is there a reason behind it? Um, and so I thought it'd be useful for us to dig in, like, how are they different for the big two? How is Bitcoin different from Ethereum? So, I mean, we,
Yeah.
we, we got to start with the big boy. Like, what is Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin was created by a pseudonym programmer named Satoshi Nakamoto, who kind of described not only Bitcoin but the blockchain decentralized currency idea, and was basically going to create this, saying this is a currency that is not tethered to any national dollar, any nation's currency, that it's completely off the grid. Yeah, Bitcoin is essentially created so people could do person-to-person transactions or P2P transactions, and that was supposed to eventually kind of replace. And it started to even get hinted that some of these big companies, or even Amazon, or some of the other people, were going to start accepting Bitcoin. But of course, the volatility made that a little difficult. So I think the original dream of Bitcoin was to be this new currency that everybody could buy into and start utilizing. And it was utilized a little bit, but more in niche areas and smaller groups because it wasn't really big in public yet. And even though now it's big in public, the volatility, and because it can't find any kind of stable middle ground, it's going to be really hard to actually pin a value on it. Like if somebody wants to buy, like I want to sell my house and I'm going to put it up for Bitcoin, and someone wants to pay me $500,000 worth of Bitcoin for the house, I better cash that to USD immediately because there's no saying what it'll do. Like, okay, maybe I sit on it and oh, cool, now I got 2 million, or you sit on it and you're like, oh, it's only 200,000 now. So right now, where people are, it's going to be kind of hard to use as an actual currency. But what it kind of has become to a certain degree, at least to a lot of people, is almost like digital gold. So now it's just kind of a holding that you can have. And I personally believe that if the U.S. stock market crashes, people are going to see, I think, a sharp spike in not only precious metals but Bitcoin. That's what
Hmm.
I think.
So yeah, but the focus is it was built to be a currency. Maybe it'll succeed at that, maybe it won't. But that was its primary use case, its primary
Yeah,
purpose.
it's all speculation
Transactions.
now of how it's going to actually pan out. But yeah.
Now, in contrast to that, the number two crypto coin is Ethereum.
Hmm.
And you can trade it just like Bitcoin. I could send you some Ethereum. We could treat Ethereum like currency if we wanted to, but
Hmm.
there is a core difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum.
That's why I like Ethereum a little more.
All right, so dig in. What's the core difference for somebody who is just hearing the word Ethereum for, the first time?
Don't even know how to eloquently explain this. You might actually be able to do a better job. I do know that it created a platform for the technology of certain coins. It's still going to use the blockchain interface, but I don't want to ramble on and sound like an idiot. So if you know a little bit more about the white paper on Ethereum and what it was,
Hey,
why don't you take that one?
the mission of Ethereum is, as you said, it's a platform. And I think the best way that I can think of it, so I'm a programmer, but I can't build my own blockchain. If I tried, it would be a failure, it would be insecure, it would never work.
You need computer
Uh,
science for that stuff.
well, it's not, my area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not an expert on cryptography. I would
Mm-hmm.
never touch the stuff. Like I would screw it up. It would not actually be secure like it's supposed to be. um,
Mining is so easy with Keepcoin.
right.
It's
You
arithmetic.
you just say
I know.
plus a million and you get a million. It's
Oh
amazing.
my goodness.
Um,
Start that IPO.
but but with a platform like Ethereum, I can build a blockchain solution. So if I think of a great solution to a problem out in the industry somewhere, I Ethereum provides all the tools I would need that so that I don't have to write it myself. And
Hmm.
so it's an accelerator, it's an on-ramp to bring more projects in more quickly. And it's a layer of services that it's providing. Like for instance, I have a couple sites that accept payment over the web.
Hmm.
I don't know how to do credit card processing. I've farmed that out to a third party system that provides it. So Stripe is a credit card processing platform. So in that kind of similar vein, Ethereum is providing blockchain decentralization services to any other project that wants to live on top of that ecosystem. And any project in that ecosystem basically has to buy its way in. Any transaction is going to cost a little bit of Ethereum for it to work because it's operating on that network.
Hmm.
So the cryptocurrency Ethereum, it's not meant for buying pizzas or, you know, buying things on Amazon. It's meant as fuel that gets spent on this platform network. So if you want to make your project do something, it needs fuel to power it on Ethereum. So it's a totally different type of project. Bitcoin is trying to replace cash and credit cards. Ethereum is enabling a whole new generation of software of solutions. And so when the market goes through these kind of crazy moments, you know, what is keeping the Bitcoin price at its current level? It's kind of a store of value. It's largely driven on speculation. It's a little bit of a feeding frenzy house of cards, right? If the
Yeah.
feeding frenzy dies down, there's no one to keep supporting the price. But with Ethereum, even if the overall market is struggling, there are still projects running on it. There are still projects that need to expend Ethereum to operate and people who need to buy Ethereum in order to invest in the projects running on the Ethereum platform. So even when the market's struggling, there's still a market for Ethereum itself. It's not just based on empty speculation.
Yeah.
It's driven by usage.
Yeah. I mean, that's what all those projects are called ERC-20 projects. And I think you're right. And in the world where Ethereum was not created to buy pizzas with or shop on Amazon, because it's one of the big two, it might just succeed overall just because it has an actual functional base use, which will give it value inherently, whereas Bitcoin may still have a future, but it doesn't really have, I think anything else really kind of going for it other than it is supposed to be a currency and it may be digital gold.
Maybe this is a terrible analogy, but I was thinking of Mad Max. So in the Mad Max world, where like we're post Armageddon and society is breaking down,
Hmm.
maybe there's still a value for gold. Maybe people still want it. I
It's
don't.
shiny. You can
Yeah.
make jewelry. Yeah, it's pretty.
But you can't. You could trade it for food, but only if the person you're trading with values gold. And in the Mad Max world, they might not. They might say, no, 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 food is way more important than gold
Hmm.
now.
That
Um,
can of beans is worth way more than a pound of
right,
gold. Yeah.
right, exactly. Or diamonds. What are you going to do with a diamond if you're
Yeah.
all starving to death?
Yeah. You also
Whereas,
can't access your crypto wallet in, in the
right,
wasteland.
right. So we're all just going to
Just
starve to death
pro
in,
tip.
in the in the Mad Max world.
Yeah.
Um, whereas Ethereum, you could literally analogize as gasoline in the Mad Max world,
Hmm.
right? Gasoline makes the machines go. And in the Mad Max world, you need your war machine fueled with gas so you can go, conquer the next village and take their resources so that you can survive. So if you have a gallon of gasoline and you're starving, you can trade that gasoline for food or water because it actually serves a purpose. It
Hmm.
drives these war machines. So, I mean, that's kind of how I'm viewing the difference here. Like, Bitcoin makes sense when there's a market for, speculative things like gold or things that people want just because they want them. And
Hmm.
if enough people say they want them, then that creates, a competition for them.
Yeah.
Um, whereas like powering machines, powering solutions is a totally different type of market structure.
And everybody has to use your gas to power that machine. It's not just any kind of gas, but
Okay, well, but that being said, we can torture the analogy even further and be like, okay, there is unleaded gas, but there are diesel cars, so there are these alternate platforms that have their own source of fuel. Maybe there's a couple hydrogen cars in the Mad Max world, you know.
yeah. And
So
there's already different countries' versions of Ethereum that are already being proposed and everything. So yeah, there's going to be more than just one. This isn't the one coin to rule them all or anything like that. But it definitely is the most prevalent right now, especially with a lot of the deep tech junkies right now that are really developing and really creating some interesting stuff. So it's definitely got its own substance to it. And unfortunately, a lot of what's happening in the market or what happens in the market, a lot gets tethered to Bitcoin. So even though we try to draw these differences now, if Bitcoin suddenly drops by 50%, unfortunately, everything else is going to follow. There's just this kind of whole, connection that everything's kind of, for lack of a better word, tethered to, because Tether will be its own discussion coming up soon.
right.
Different coin, different problem. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. It's just because it's the number one. It was the number one at least. It was like it was the first
Bitcoin.
thing. Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Everybody says, "Oh, you're into that
Right. It has
Bitcoin."
the
I'm
name
like,
recognition.
yeah, kinda. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And I think the day is coming. Like I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if during 2018, I mean it could be a couple weeks from now, that Ethereum overtakes Bitcoin. And
Hmm.
if that happens and people, of course will ask why, the press will be like, "Oh, Bitcoin, this thing we don't understand is no longer the king. This thing we really don't understand and have never heard of, Ethereum is now the king. What is it and why?" I think
Yeah,
as people start digging into the why, they'll appreciate what service Ethereum is providing, and then it might even hasten the death of Bitcoin even faster. Like
yeah.
like if people kind of see things the way that I'm seeing it, like, wait, Ethereum is doing work. What's Bitcoin doing again?
Hmm.
And as people start jumping ship, again, because there's no functional backing behind Bitcoin. There's no purpose it's serving other than store of value and a speculative asset. I wouldn't be shocked if Bitcoin just plummeted to the ground and Ethereum just took over and owned the crypto world for a while.
I've heard some opinions that say that very similarly. That they think that it's not going to happen tomorrow. It may not happen, in 2018 or even 2019, but eventually, because of its function, that Ethereum is going to be already the future. Because all these projects that are just barely launching now, I mean, aside from all the speculation of how the market's going to regulate and all this stuff, and the SEC and IRS, all that stuff, but people that aren't even concerned with like how the market's doing, that are just using this technology to better everyone's lives, uh, using stuff in the blockchain, engaging smart contracts, which is going to be a big part of just how things operate on the internet and in the future, is all not all but majorly powered by Ethereum
Yeah, for now. For now,
for
there
now.
are there are
It's true.
rising competing platforms, and at some point, hopefully, we'll have the time to dig into each one of them in turn.
Yeah,
But
that'd be
yeah, for
nice.
now, Ethereum is the platform king by a wide margin.
It's one that I believe in a little more myself. I still see that the value of Bitcoin is still there. I think it's going to go back up. I think it's going to skyrocket again. I think it's going to plummet again. So I think there's going to be a lot of evolutions before, your prediction of that Ethereum will overtake. And, like I said, it's, when the news is going, what is this Ethereum? We don't understand. It's like, well, get a damn millennial on your show and they'll tell you exactly how it goes. The right millennial, hopefully, not the whoa dude one. So,
I don't know. I've seen a lot of clueless millennials too. It's not like
yeah, I know.
they just automatically get a plug into the matrix, by virtue
Yeah.
of being born in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's our basic explanation of the big two. And it's if someone were asking us what we would be thinking of as far as a long term, I'm already holding Ethereum for the long term. I am currently not holding any Bitcoin for the long term. I have pondered on wanting to get some just to have, at least that one Bitcoin or a couple Bitcoin or something like that because I do see the value going up and down, but that's not something I feel like I want to hold on to for the 5, 10, 15 years that I feel like I could with Ethereum.
Yeah, and I'm similar. I don't know that I'm. Well, we can get into our investing strategies in another
Yeah.
video. That's kind of a bigger can of worms to get into.
Hmm.
But yeah, just to wrap this up, like dig into each of at least even just the major top 10 cryptocurrencies and start learning how they're different and what different approaches they're taking. It is not all about currency. It is not all about replacing cash. That is
Not at
just
all.
one possible reason for these coins to exist. There's a lot of different solutions out there.
Yeah, and even those people that aren't that technically savvy, because every project has a white paper that basically explains this is what their plan is, this is what their team is, this is what the technology is, this is what, everything in there, and it can get pretty technical. But then some of them also have what's called a light paper, which is just a kind of a dumbed down version. It kind of it helps people understand who don't necessarily want to read sometimes a 38 to 50 page document on every tiny facet of what's going on. But sometimes you read the light paper and be like, wow, this is really fascinating, and you understand as much as you can about the white paper, and then you can do your research to find out a little bit more to really dig into it. So
Yeah.
yeah, the internet's out there. Use it. Resources, all that good stuff.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll cut this off here. Catch you
All
guys later.
right. Invest smartly. Keep the sanity.
Like we in full transparency, like we're fairly new to this space too. Like we're becoming more and more well-read and more, self-educated here. But
Hmm.
I think part of the fun for this is that, we're gonna look back at this in a year or two or whatever and be like, man, we didn't know anything. We were so dumb. Um,
It's
but
true.
yeah, so some of these basics I feel like we do have a good enough handle on.